Greetings, everybody, and happy Monday. David Lyden and Jake Boss with you, hopping on Facebook and YouTube Live this afternoon as we start week number 2, the second full week of competition at the Milan Cortina Olympic Games in Italy. And tomorrow is a big day for two Northern Michigan natives over in Italy. They will be competing very early in the morning here, late morning over in Italy. Jake Boss talked to one of them. Jake, tell us who's competing, the event they're competing in, and what this means for a couple of hometown Olympians.
100%, yeah. So for 3 women total on the U.S. women's aerial skiing team, 2 are from right here in Northern Michigan. 2 of the best aerial skiers in the world. It's Kayla Kuhn and Winter Vanicki. Winter Vanicki is from Gaylord, while Kayla Kuhn is from Boyne City. And these 2 are former Olympians. They both appeared in the Beijing Olympics and had solid finishes. And they've now been, this last offseason, hitting the World Cup and climbing the standings. They're currently number 3 and 4 in the world, and the top Americans in the world. They're only trailing China at 1 and 2, so it's going to hopefully come down to a tight finish here, a close finish between those 2 countries here.
28 and 22 years old, so Kayla, I think she would have been 18 when she was competing in the Beijing Games back in 2022. By the way, if you have any Olympic-related questions you want to ask either of us, just drop them in the comment section here on Facebook. So they're both very young in Beijing. They placed 13th and 8th. They were not on the medal podium. What are they looking to do in Milan this year? Yeah,
so when it comes down to scoring, you're looking at a few different components. You have the air, which is about 20% of what your total score will be. That's height and distance. And then you have your form, which is how clean the jump looks when you're, twisting and keeping your skis together. And then you're looking at your landing and how smooth are you able to land whichever jump you're doing. And then you multiply that by the degree of difficulty that your jump has. So maybe these athletes in the past Olympics can look to ramp up one of those sections. Maybe they make their degree of difficulty higher. If you look at Kayla Kuhn, she switched from doing doubles into triples, which means it's going to be a lot harder jump, but her degree of difficulty will also be a lot higher. So that end score being multiplied, that's kind of where the gamesmanship comes in. How big do you want to go? How difficult do you want to go? And how are you able to execute that? And are you able to execute it better than you did in your past games?
And maybe to back up a little bit, talk about the event they're competing in. It's aerial freestyle. We're showing some video of it right now. It's ski jumping with, no pun intended, a bit of a twist thrown in.
Yeah, exactly. You're going down a ramp. You're in a crouched position. You're going downhill, skiing downhill, and then there's different ramps you can go up. There's either a singles ramp, a doubles ramp, or a triples ramp. And if you're looking at the triples ramp, like we just talked about with Kayla Kuhn, that's going to send you about 45 to 50 feet in the air. So in that time, you should be able to do 3 backflips and then, different twists and turns in there. Doubles ramp will send you about 30 feet in the air. And that's where, again, the degree of difficulty comes in. And and there's going to be a training round first, and then, of course, the medal event will be a couple days later.
So this is qualifying tomorrow.
Yes.
They got to get through the round tomorrow if they want to make the medal round, which is Wednesday in Milan. I just lost my train of thought there real quick. We'll come and revisit that in a second. But what were their expectations going into Milan after not making the medal podium in Beijing 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think expectations are high. I think with that kind of not off season, but the circuit they do when they're not going to be in the Olympics, it's the World Cup, and I think these 2 have been absolutely at the top of the World Cup standings every year. I know Winter Vanicki finished first in 2023. Kayla Kuhn just won an event to qualify her for the Olympics. So these 2 have been at the top of the game. They're the top Americans, since Beijing, really. So it's I don't want to say it's almost a pressure, but they have been at the top of their field for since Beijing. And so I think there's an expectation to a certain degree for these 2 to do well.
You talked a little bit about the varying degrees of difficulty. Kayla's going for the highest degree of difficulty in her jumps tomorrow, but I was reading that's not necessarily something. The 3 flips is much less prominent on the women's side of this event than the men's side of this event. That's almost something that's common in the men's side of of aerial freestyle, correct?
Yeah, 100%. We talked to Kayla Kuhn, and she said she's one of just about 9 or 10 women in the entire world that is competing in these triples right now. So obviously to gain the amount of speed, the amount of momentum, something that might just be a little easier on the male side, a little more weight to take you downhill and gain velocity. But yeah, on the women's side, it's very rare, and it's obviously with the degree of difficulty is very high. So it's a risk reward kind of thing. But she's been doing it for long enough and just got a World Cup win while doing triples that I think she's ready.
It's so interesting how the World Cup may not translate to Olympic success in this. What does that tell you about the sport and the difficulty that they're going to face in Milan?
Yeah. I think like any sport, it's anyone's ball game on any day. You know, it just depends. Some people like different weather environments more. Some people like different levels of snow compactness. There's a lot of different factors that go into what makes a good jump, but I think when it comes down to competition day, it's just going to be who has put the work in the past. All these athletes have put the work in, but who is able to just perform when the light shines bright.
When you talk about hometown pride, how much hometown spirit is on the line here? Because both Winter and Kayla grew up in the backyards of two of the most well-known ski resorts in Michigan. Winter from Gaylord, and everybody across the state knows Treetops, and over in Boyne, where Kayla's from, you obviously have the Highlands and Boyne Mountain there. Did they talk at all about just having skiing right in their backyard and how that might have influenced their interest in going into this sport?
Yeah, so these are two people that started regular skiing, and then
they didn't go right into this at first. They learned how to do regular downhill skiing.
There's no youth classes on how to do triple backflips, But so they both started with regular skiing, just Kayla Kuhn on the mountains of Boyne, just going downhill. She started when she was just 18 months old skiing, and then through that they were also, these are high-class athletes, so they're competing in other sports as well, doing gymnastics, and that's kind of the perfect combination we see that makes great aerial skiers.
This is sort of like skiing meets gymnastics.
Exactly.
If there was supposed to be from like a Summer Olympics to a Winter Olympics transition, this might be what you get.
Exactly. So they kind of complement each other, and they both got recruited to go try out for national teams, one in Utah and one in Lake Placid, New York. And, both of those athletes at a young age were introduced to aerial skiing, and then they've just competed and trained that ever since. And it's a fascinating sport to watch.
Yeah.
And I know in my case I would not do well up there, but
you're fighting gravity in a lot of this, trying to defy the laws of physics. So as we get ready to wrap up here, Jake, tomorrow, what time can we catch Winter and Kayla competing in the Olympics tomorrow?
So set your alarms for about 4:30 in the morning. You'll be able to watch it live, and then again, a replay will be shown later in the day. But yeah, if you want to support, it's going to be bright and early.
Dark and early.
Back
here in northern Michigan. And of course, we will have all of the coverage of Winter and Kayla competing tomorrow in the qualifying. If they get past the qualifying, it's on to the medal round on Wednesday, where they will determine if they go on the podium. All right, Jake, appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Absolutely.
We'll keep the Olympic coverage going with you tonight at 10 and 11 as well tomorrow. We'll share the results of what happens over in Milan Cortina with Kayla and Winter. I am David Lyden. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, Northern Michigan, and we will see you back here tomorrow as we share the results of Winter and Kayla going airborne over in Milan. Take care, everybody.